So we are now on 1919. Yotes, and this is our slightly shorter day, and this is a hard puzzle to read. So I actually don't know if that's going to make things easier or harder. It either means that we're going to get stuck in the translation phase a lot, or it means we're going to totally give up on the translation phase and then start looking at meforshim early. So we'll see what happens. Okay. So as you can see, first of all, there is a ksiv. Okay. Now, have we talked about ksivs? A little bit. Okay. So just for the sake of review, because I think it's relevant here. So ksiv, just again, basic definition here is when you have the pasuk that is written one way in the official Torah ksiv, and then you're supposed to read it another way based on the Torah Pad, right? So do we talk about the Abravanel?
That one is like the actual meaning.
Oh,
like secondary.
No. Okay, so we didn't talk about the Abravanel.
Okay.
Yeah. So in Mishlei, actually, I just want to frame this because this is good to know in general. So the Abravanel says this. I believe it's in his Hashemah to Yirmiyahu. Okay, so in Torah, okay, like the Chumash, the Chumash Torah, then there are two types of ksivs. One is when there is like one meaning in the kri and then another meaning in the ksiv. Okay, and I think usually it is the kri, the way that you read it is the actual meaning, and then the ksiv is like some other meaning. Second case of ksivs in the Torah. Anyone know what the other kind of ksiv in the Torah is? Ish. It's euphemisms. Okay, so there are times in the Torah, or lashon naki, whatever you want to call it, is that, let's say, I forgot to give an example the first time. What's the most common ksiv in the entire Torah? God's name. Okay, right? So that's a good example where it's written Yud Kei Vav Kei, and I guess that's opposite of what I said, but it's written Yud Kei Vav Kei, which according to the Rambam is the name of God that points to his unknowable essence. And then we read it, Aleph Daled Nun Yud, which means my Lord or my master, which refers to the way that we can understand God. So that's like an idea-based ksiv. Okay. Second category is euphemisms. So for example, in the Torah, when it's describing the Tochacha, and the punishments that are going to befall Bnei Israel, it says like you'll get married and then another man will lie with her. Okay, so the kri, the way you read it, will lie with her, but the ksiv is yishgalena, which is like a much more vulgar, like will ravage her. You know, another man will ravage her as opposed to another man will lie with her. So it says it in the most harsh way, but then we read it in the like more euphemistic way. Or another example of that is every time in the Torah when it says na'ara, like a young maiden, it spells it without the hey at the end, like to make it like less like you're overtly talking about like a young woman or whatever. So those are the euphemistic ones. Okay, now the third category does not appear in Torah, and this is the Abravanel's theory, so I don't know how well accepted it is. Third category is that it is essentially typos or evidence of lack of complete education. Okay, so he goes through a whole long thing and he says, in order to be a Navi, you obviously have to have a lot of knowledge and you have to have a lot of midos perfection, but there's nothing that says you have to like be able to ace spelling bees. Okay, and what he does is he does like this is in the intro to Yirmiyahu. Yirmiyahu was like,
This is only enough.
Only enough, yeah. So there are going to be none of these in Chumash because that is dictated by Hashem, and Hashem knows spelling better than anyone. But in no, just drop out if you're ever in that situation. So in Nach, so again, this is in his intro to Yirmiyahu, and he starts off with the observation. He says, if you look at all of the books that Yirmiyahu wrote, which are Sefer Yirmiyahu, Megillas Eicha, and then Sefer Melachim. All right, you will find, and you count up all the ksivs. Number one, you'll find, and let's say you compare that to Yeshayahu, okay, and you count all the ksivs there. You will find a crazy disproportionate number more in Yirmiyahu's, and the nature of the ksivs. Some of them fall into the first two categories, but most of them are like getting conjugations wrong, getting genders wrong, getting plural, singular, like what do you call it? Subject, verb, agreement stuff. You'll find that wrong. Now, why is that? Because, and why wouldn't you find it in Yeshayahu? He says, yeah.
He was a teenager?
He was a teenager, right? Because Yirmiyahu was like 14 or 15, or somewhere between 12 and 15 when he started his nevuah. Did not get a chance to complete school. Was immediately thrust. I mean, I talked about this, I feel like I addressed this in a shir earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Maybe like a Tishbak shir. Or no, it was the Rafaino shir in May, because those pasukim were from Yirmiyahu. Like, he was basically taken out of his because he was bemoaning the fact that he never got a chance to like have enjoyable times with friends, because all the enjoyable times with friends were friends who were rejoicing in their like partying, Israel's not going to be destroyed thing, and he was the guy who was telling them that everything's going to be destroyed. So he got pulled out, and he had to speak to kings, like, and tell them that they're going to be destroyed. So he never got a chance to finish school, essentially. And whereas Yeshayahu was a member of, he was in the royal family, and that's why his language is very, very like flowery and poetic and stuff. And so that's Abravanel's theory, that basically what happened was Yirmiyahu wrote down all his nevuahs, but he, and he's obviously like high-level Navi, high-level knowledge. It's not so high-level spelling. And in Ezra, I guess, and Anshei Knesset Havdalah, when they incorporated into Tanakh, then they made all these corrections, because Tanakh should be grammatically correct. And they didn't change the ksiv, but because that's from a Navi, and maybe they didn't change it. I think he says they didn't change it because maybe he was alluding to something. But like, but he, so that's the Abravanel's theory. Okay. So now the question is, what do we do when we see things like that in Mishlei? All right. So it could be the first or the second category, where you're alluding to an idea with a ksiv duality, or you are using some sort of euphemism. It could be a scribal error. Okay. Again, even the greatest people make typos. If you look at, this is a side point, but the best novel ever, in my opinion, is John Steinbeck's East of Eden, which I will recommend to anybody. But as a novel and as ideas, is like whatever. So he has this thing called journals of a novel, or diaries of a novel, where every day, to rev himself up to start writing, he would write in his journal about like either what's going on in his life or like ideas about his writing, full of misspellings. And he's a writer, like he's a professional writer, but full of misspellings. And some things are like consistent misspellings. You could be a great, So if Shlomo wrote Mishlei, like wrote down the words, then it's possible he made errors. And if it was like some people say that like it was written, like that he came up with the proverbs, but it was written down later on, then we don't even know who wrote them. So certainly there could be like typos. So that's like that's the I feel like that was important methodology for encountering ksivs in like Nach in general. So again, in Chumash, you will never have a misspelling or a grammatical error. It will only be to allude to ideas or for euphemisms. But in Nach, it's fair game, because the Nevi'im were given content from Nevuah, but not words, which is also why they have their distinct styles. And that's also why, according to, I think it's the Radak maybe, you'll see the phrase Ne'um Hashem a lot in Nevi'im, which means saith Hashem. And that signifies, and you will never see Moshe say that. And that's because Moshe was being given the words from Hashem directly, whereas the Nevi'im were being given the content, and then they were like expressing it in words, but the content didn't come to them in words. So in the Nevi'im, you will find differences in styles, and then differences in grammar and spelling ability. Yeah. Okay.
And wait, the reason you can't, like, that would violate one of the Iker charge one. If we said that there was like a obvious error.
I think so. I mean, I guess it depends on how you define that Iker. I mean, let's put it this way. Everyone's going to agree that Hashem is not going to make a grammatical mistake, right? And that I don't think you need Ikarim for. But I think it would violate the Iker of Torah Min HaShemayim if you... But see, I don't even want to say that, because we do know that there are scribal errors in Torah, right?
Yeah.
Like Suadaka is the most famous one. Is that it's spelled dak? This is one of the Kohanic blemishes. It's spelled with an ayin in I forgot which one was Ashkenazic, which one was Sephardic, but an ayin in some Sifrei Torah, and then an aleph in other Sifrei Torah. Yeah, and there are other examples of that also, but I think that's the most famous one. and like that's universally acknowledged. Like that's not like just an academic thing that they're like, you know, digging up and like using as ammo, you know.
Right.
So I actually don't know what it would say about, you know, the notion of scribal errors in
I think it's more a question of torsional head.
Right.
The torsional head like lost the fact that these were mistakes, and it's just like, and it is like attributing like divine source to them.
Right. I mean, and this gets confusing also because there's torsional peh, and then there's torsional ksiv, and then there's the Bali Masora, like the Masoretes, or however you say it, you know, that it's a torsional peh Masora on torsional ksiv. And there are cases, I believe, where I don't know if it's cases or case, where there's, for example, a machlokus between the Bali Masora on torsional ksiv and the Bavli on what a pasuk says, like on the word, the spelling or the wording, you know. So like there are examples. I only know all of this from not firsthand, but from Rabbi Shavuos here on the Sorah, which is like the famous, the famous Shavuos here. Like apparently, if you listen to any of them, then that's the one you listen to.
Oh, you get them again afterwards, right?
Yeah, I'm recording it. Yeah,
yeah. I was wondering.
yeah.
Yeah. I would argue all social pet is a Persian social.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Okay. So now, with all that background, here's what we see. Okay, the pasuk is written. Gral chema nose onesh ki im tatzil ve'od tosif. Okay, but it's read Gidal chema nose onesh ki im tatzil ve'od tosif. Now this is one where it's really hard because why would you say that this is a scribal error?
Looks
Because
very
Stalin and Reish.
So it's very similar.
Right, and I think it's, I mean, I don't know because I'm not a sofer, but I feel like that's the easiest one to get smudged and become
like this.
It's just a
This
little,
is like this.
yeah, it's just a little
Yeah.
dot of ink that makes the difference, you know?
Right.
So you could say that, or you could say that it's an idea, you know? Okay, so how are we going to translate this? And again, this is a tough one to translate. The syntax is bizarre. You want to try?
Yeah.
We'll say Gadol for now. Yeah.
Is that like bigness?
Yeah, bigness. Hugeness. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's a more eloquent way to say bigness. Largest. No. We'll say bigness. Okay, fine. Bigness.
Yeah.
I feel like greatness is better, but greatness kind of has a positive connotation.
Massiveness.
Yeah. We'll say bigness for now.
Yeah. It's kind of jealousy.
No.
No.
It is a negative emotion though. Fama. Af uva fama uva ketzaf gadol. I don't know if that helps.
I don't even know.
I don't know where it's from. Wrath.
Right.
I was gonna say hate. No, it's different.
Yeah.
Hatred's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anger leads to hate.
Yeah.
It leads to
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
Yeah. Bigness of wrath carries iniquity.
Okay. Not iniquity. What onish?
Oh, onus.
Punishment. Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah.
Now,
now you are interestingly on the right track. Sadigon changes the word to iniquity. Okay. But so bigness of wrath. And what did you say for nose? Carries. Okay. So carries is one translation of nose.
Sustains.
Sustains is another one. Supports is another one. Bears is another one, like to tolerate or to like bear a burden. And then oddly enough, which I don't know if anyone says this here, like when we say, for example, that God is nose avon v'afesha v'chatav. Okay, so you can translate that as he bears or tolerates those things, but there's another translation for nose there, and I think there's another. Is there another common phrase there? Nose. So it can also mean to forgive when you use it with or pardon, like nose avon v'afesha v'chatav. Okay, I think everyone learns it basically means God forgives those types of sins. Okay, so I'm going to say forgives also. All right, so fine. So nose onesh, punishment. Okay, and here's the hard part to read.
Yeah.
Okay, ki'im tatzil ve'od tosif.
I actually don't know how to translate key in.
So I think you can actually translate this as ki and then im. I don't think you have to translate as ki im.
No,
Yeah.
because
if tatil.
It will save and also it will add.
Okay, can you be more specific with the will? Like what's the pronoun?
you
If you save,
Oh, you
the od tosif,
and also you add.
and also you add or increase. Now it's tosif could either be tatil and tosif could either be you or it could be
It
which gender?
her.
Her, right? So what would that be then
Mhm.
in the pasuk? What's the feminine
Bonus.
thema, I think, right? So if it / her saves, and also it increase. If you saw how messy this is on the screen, you'd be like, it would be more confusing than the Hebrew.
More messy than Yirmiyahu's graph.
Oh, yeah. And now there's one more thing also. So if we're going to incorporate,
Things.
yeah, real poetry doesn't have to be grammatically correct. Oh yeah, that was if you didn't see the shir in May, that was the thing because I mentioned that whenever I start learning teaching Yirmiyahu in high school, I have the students before we started send in images of what they think Yirmiyahu looked like, and so they invariably all send in pictures of like old men, like classic Navi looking, and then my image is like this emo kid because that's like really what I think he looks like, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I remember like a pink streak of hair.
Yeah, he's like a pink streak of hair, and he's like you can't see his eyes because his head is going like that's really Yirmiyahu. Yeah. Then he became a bitter old man, but yeah. So bigness of wrath. Now, if you said instead of gadol, if you said gral, what would gral mean? Lottery of wrath.
Whoa.
Okay.
Yeah, I really want to come up with an idea for
Yes. My immediate intuition was like that. I mean, I understand the argument that it could be like the part of the dollar fell off, but like it lends itself to like a cool like move for saying an idea, you know?
Yeah, it's like a person who like just like gets angry like without any like punch.
Yeah.
We had
A
a
lot of
version
regret.
before, right?
I think we did, but I don't think it was this ambiguous.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember what it was,
Okay.
but I do actually. Yeah, I'm not gonna check. Yeah, and I feel like it was a while ago also.
Oh, we have one.
I think it was like last week.
We have one what?
Somewhere nacho.
Yeah.
Oh, the rough of
Yeah.
Yamus.
Oh, Yamus and Yumas. That's right. Yeah.
Right. So I guess they're very close.
Yeah, that one definitely. I guess that one could be both also, right? Because you could easily see that it could just got a transposed vav
Right.
or whatever, or Yumas and Yamus could be a thing. Yeah. Okay, so what we have here is a mess. Bigness of wrath carries, sustains, supports, bears, forgives punishment. But if you save, also you increase. Or that sounds like investment advice. Or if she saves, then she will increase, and the she being the wrath. Yeah, it's just a total mess. Now, let's simplify things by going to our minimalist meforshim here. So Sadigon says like this. Now, when you read the Sadigon on your thing on the top right, you have to read it with a footnote. Okay, so Rav Hachema Nose Avonos. Okay, so I would translate this as one who is great in wrath. Okay, meaning I assume it means that they are very wrathful, not that they're like skilled at it. One who's great in wrath.
You should look for him. He's great.
Yeah, Nose Avonos. So I would say again, carries or bears, I think, are the most likely candidates here. Iniquities, right? Sins. Iniquities. Okay. He, now you got to put the foot on it. Rav Chema, because when you are great in wrath, im tinatzel, if you escape, okay, tinatzel, if you are saved, okay, I'll say if you are saved. Im tinatzel midavar, from something, tosif bizulaso, you will add or increase in something else.
Hmm.
Now that's also not really clean, but let me just read it in one sentence. One who is great in wrath carries or bears iniquities. I'm just going to say bears because I think carries I think bears is more all-encompassing. One who is great in wrath bears iniquities, because when you are great in wrath, if you escape from something, you will add or increase in something else. I know. Still very confusing. Targum, I looked up all the words this morning. Gavra Chemtana, so a man of, they had a funny word in Jethro for Chemtana. Oh man, what was it?
Oh, Jonathan.
Yeah, Gavra. Oh yeah. So he does say Gavra. That is one thing to know. Hold on a second. I thought I looked it up this morning. Okay, I got to look up. Oh, whatever. It meant angry, but they had like a specific English word that I actually had to look up. So so a man of anger, basically, right? A wrathful man, Mikabel Taka, receives Taka was grief or pressure or grief. Okay. And I'm just going with Jasper here because I have no idea what taka is.
Mhm.
I think, okay, this is me like armchair etymologizing. Taka, if it means pressure, according to Jasper, it might be related to the Hebrew daka, which is pressure.
Mhm.
You know.
That's Gravel error also.
Yeah, Targum can definitely make struggle. Makabel taka. Uchama demisale al tuane, and as much as he, now this is the part I'm not even sure about translating, as much as he ascends over his burden, mosif, he will add. I don't know what this is saying. Okay, so then here I'll read the article in Living Knock and Altar. Article says, a person of great wrath will bear punishment, for if you rescue him, his wrath will only grow. That's clean. Living Knock says, a wrathful person incurs punishment. If you try to spare him, he will only get worse. And then Alter says, a very hot-headed man bears punishment. Try to save him, you will make things worse. So I think even if we don't go with those exact translations, you get like the thrust of what a sensible translation would look like, you know? Yeah. But it still is messy. Salute.
Yeah, so I guess I'd say my translation, not looking at the words, is like an angry person, like I'd say gets some sort of punishment or consequences, because, and even if he's spared consequences, there will be some sort of like additional thing because of
Yeah, that's like the thrust that we're going to go with. Yeah.
What does that mean? Even if he like avoids consequences, there will be worse consequences.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tosif, I guess. Well, so here's the question: Tosif could either mean worse or it could just mean additional, which
Aside
means
from the
like
ones that he's escaped.
yeah, meaning he escapes these and gets those
Uh-huh.
out of the frying pan into the fire.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah. So I guess let's get down some basic questions and let's try to if we allowed ourselves to list questions about particular translations, I feel like we're just going to get worse. We're going to escape from but so let's just like ask questions on the general thrust of the pasuk, because like let's try to like keep a not bird's eye but maybe drone's eye, like just hover over the psukim enough.
Feel pretty high.
That's true. Yeah,
you're gonna look at the whole paragraph.
Right.
Yeah, in other words, let's try to ask general questions without getting our questions bogged down in the lesson, because that's just going to be infinite.
Right.
So I guess we got to ask, what does it mean to be Gdol Chema, right? Great in wrath. Like, does it mean that you get angry easily? Does it mean that you like the degree of your anger has bigness?
It means like big ego.
If it does mean, certainly if it means big anger and ego are definitely related. So yeah, but I don't think it means big ego. It could stem from big ego though.
What onesh are we talking about?
Yes.
Is this like the onesh is a very general.
Yeah.
Is it all consequences of anger?
Yeah. Okay, good. What ownership are we talking about?
And what's this phenomenon of escaping and then getting it as something additional.
Yeah. What does it mean that if he escapes? It's funny, by the way, that the 3 English translations that we saw all say rescue. If you rescue him, if you spare him, if you save him.
It's like third party.
Yeah, it's not. It's definitely a left and third party, because in other words, the pasuk doesn't say, like, the way to say escape is tinat sail. And I feel like probably the meforshim will say that, like, if he escapes, but but you're right. It's saying if you save, I don't know what to make of that. But so we'll just say again, first time.
She not telling me you save someone else.
Literally it means if you be saved, but we usually translate tinatel as like if you like escape. But tinatel nafshi,
Oh,
like my soul like made it out. Yeah.
She not tell us like escaping myself or tatil is saving.
Yeah. It's funny if they had. Oh, this is a dumb joke. It's probably just only funny in my head. If they had like because Hatzalah is like what you call when you need to be saved. If they had like he's not Salah, you'd be like, you just call them and they say save yourself. If you just need a little pep talk, right? So what do you mean that if he escapes, then it will increase?
Also, it's weird. No say like avon
Yeah.
by God meant like doesn't mean that he gets onesh. Obviously,
Yeah.
It means he like tolerates it.
Right. Well, it doesn't say no say owners by God. It says no say
No say
avon.
avon.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So what? Right. There's nothing. Well, I guess the corner go. It is no say.
For this, it is no say avon. Right. Yeah.
So then, why? It's strange that it would be like a negative thing here, where it's like.
Yeah. So that's something that I guess I've struggled with in understanding that phrase in general. The first time it appears, here's I feel like I'm getting deja vu. I don't know if we just talked about this recently. Where's the first instance? Where's the first time tshuva is mentioned as a topic in Chumash?
Never.
Kind of have.
Kind of have, right? So there.
Like where's the first time in the comics that Olam is used to mean like the world.
Right.
Yeah, and there's always someone who answers by Moshe Rabbeinu, and that's almost never going to be right. Like there's a whole book before Moshe Rabbeinu, but by Cain, then when he kills his brother, when he botches his korban, right? Then and he gets depressed and he gets angry, right? So Hashem says, Lama haralach, why are you wrathful? V'lama naflu f'nechan, why did your face fall? And falling face is depression, right? Not just sadness, but like depression, So then Hashem says to him, Halo im tetiv, if you improve yourself, se'es. And se'es is from no say. You will, so it's also ambiguous lesson. You will be born, carried. Okay, you will be born, not like wham wham, but like borne. Yeah, you will be like sustained or whatever. Hello im tetiv se'es. If you improve yourself, you will be. So Rashi translates as you will be forgiven, but you will be forgiven if you will be like tolerated or you will be supported. Okay. But if you do not improve yourself, lapesach chatas rovates, sin crouches at the opening, and I think most say that sin there means Yitzhahara is crouching at the opening, meaning like it's waiting. It desires you, like the Yitzhahara wants to target you, but you may conquer it. So there it is like that's the first instance we see this. In other words, the reason why I bring this up is the first time we ever talk about God's attitude towards a sin in terms of like acceptance or forgiveness, it uses the word no say. It doesn't use the word like lachaper or slicha, certainly not mechila, because that's not a biblical shoresh, right? Mechila. Yeah, machal is invented by Chazal. So it uses no say. So it's a separate but good question. Like, why does it describe God's attitude towards our sinning that we've done tshuva for as he tolerates it or he bears it or he carries it? So yeah. So it is a good question, but I think it's more of a question on that expression rather than on why it uses it here. Although we might have to think about why it uses it here because it's equally ambiguous here. See, I had this feeling we get caught up in translation related issues today. Yeah.
I actually have like a speculative idea.
Oh, I just want to make sure we got all the questions first. I think we need to list the question of what do we make of the Gadol Garal, right? And then another question that I think is important, which might just come from the translations here, like let's say, for example, a wrathful person in correspondence, if you try to spare him, he will only get worse. So I get this vibe from here that feels like a different vibe than other Mishlei pasukim, because it almost sounds like it's saying it's hopeless. So the question is the same question we always ask, which is what's the practical advice? But here it's saying, like, don't try to save him. It's only going to make it worse. So like, does that just mean that the person is doomed, or does it mean that if you try to save him, then you're making it worse? But maybe there's some other way we can get out of it. So I'm asking the question: what is the practical advice of this pasuk? And then, especially given the implication that this guy is doomed no matter what. Yeah. Okay, so I got 2 minutes. So you want to say a 2-minute approach, and then we'll let it percolate? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that when a person is like angry person, and he's gonna arouse the ire of others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that an anger?
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, yeah. So what is then like people are gonna want to like get back at him because of that, and like even if you save him from the particular consequences of some situation of him getting angry, people are going to be like unhappy that he escaped, and like come up with something else.
Yeah. Okay. I like that approach. Yeah. I'm trying to see if there's any irony in it, but there's not. Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to give an example of that. I feel like there should be plenty of examples from the former President Trump. I can't think of any right now. But I mean, that's the thing is like there is a phenomenon when someone gets out of punishment in general and people get angry, but then if someone like loses their temper and does something and then doesn't get the consequences of that, I feel like that compounds the public anger.
Yeah, especially if it's like they're regularly angry.
Yeah.
So because if it's like one situation, then people will be like, oh, like people will be more like forgiving.
Yeah.
If a person is Gadol,
meaning like that's a trait of theirs. Yeah.
Or Gadol.
Yeah. All right, let's stop for today, and then we'll try to work it out tomorrow, and probably consult meforshim. Yep. Alrighty.
I heard that